Hello, everybody. This is Ben Hanson with MinnMax, and I'm here with...
Kyle Hilliard.
Kyle, we're here to talk about everything we know about, just to get it right, Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Very exciting announcement during the PlayStation 5 stream. They kicked the entire thing off with this thing, and I think it's worth unpacking what we know about this thing and maybe a little bit of what we don't know, because there's been a lot of confusion on the internet, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and there's not like a mountain of knowledge about this thing yet, but there were some clarifications after yesterday's stream, which were helpful.
Yes. So IGN ran an article, other people picked it up, where a Sony executive, what's his name?
His name is Simon Rudder, and he spoke with The Telegraph, which is a UK newspaper.
And he was talking about this game in a way that made it seem like, oh, it's just a remaster of the original game, and then it's kind of like an expansion, which confused the world. But now Insomniac has made it clear. They tweeted out, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales is the next adventure in the Marvel's Spider-Man universe. We will reveal more about this standalone game at a future date, because everyone was worried, is it an expansion? Is it just a bunch of DLC with a remaster? It is not. It is a standalone experience that Jason Schreier has compared in scope. Jason Schreier, formerly of Kotaku, now Bloomberg News, he tweeted that it is comparable to Uncharted Lost Legacy, which I think is a helpful way to look at what Sony's doing here.
Yeah, Schreier tweeted, let's see, Spider-Man Miles Morales is not an expansion or enhancement or remaster, despite a Sony executive's comments this morning. A source tells Bloomberg News, nor is it Spider-Man 2. It is a brand new standalone game, similar in scope to Uncharted Lost Legacy.
Yeah, so you can expect it to be a shorter experience overall. It's a way for them to leverage that city one more time. And so when we actually look at the gameplay in the trailer here, we can see that, the way they're putting a twist on it is a little bit like the Arkham Origins method of making it Christmas time, making it the holidays. And so the city's going to be covered in snow, and you're going to be exploring New York City again, but from a new perspective with a new twist on the environment with the snow.
I'm really into it, by the way, because I like the opportunity to play as Miles, because that was like the DLC for Spider-Man kind of teased that, like you had conversations with Miles, but then it just kind of like, it ultimately, nothing happened from that. It was just a few phone calls with Miles. So I like seeing Miles getting, what will be his own adventure and his own story, and he will be playable, so that's exciting.
Right, and it's funny though, with people talking about, oh, finally we get to play as Miles. Like, hey, we played as Miles in that game on PS4. It's just, it was so unremarkable. He just had those stealth sections, trying to hide from Rhino, stuff like that. And so, I mean, when you say play as Miles, we mean play as, Miles Morales as Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh, man. Hanson, totally honest here, I completely forgot about those sections until you brought them up right now. I was like, you do play as Miles. You're totally right.
But it's forgettable, Yeah. It's as forgettable, I think, as playing as MJ and just walking around that house for a little bit.
I'm kind of a new Miles fan. I knew about him. I mean, Ben Reeves gave me the rundown on him plenty of times over at Game Informer, but I really fell in love with him with Into the Spider-Verse. So now I'm like really excited to get to play as him as Spider-Man. It's awesome.
And I think it's amazing timing for this announcement, and just the fact there's so much goodwill about Into the Spider-Verse, such an incredible movie. I saw the director of Into the Spider-Verse, he tweeted out like an applaud gif along with this announcement. Brian Michael Bendis, the original creator of Miles Morales, he tweeted out his support of the game as well, which is very fun to see. I think people are going to be expecting this to be like the Into the Spider-Verse game, which is like, I'm sure it's very much still going to be in that Insomniac mold,
Yeah, I mean, there was some weird color stuff happening in the little teaser, but yeah, I mean, it's a continuation of Insomniac's Spider-Man. It's not going to be wholly new or anything like that.
Right, but it is a fun interconnection. The fact that people are connecting those two again, just because it was that weird detail that Into the Spider-Verse, they did have Insomniac's Spider-Man suit.
That's
and so
right.
Now it's like, all right, now take the goodwill built up from this Oscar award-winning movie and now shove it back Insomniac's way for this standalone game that's going to be on the PlayStation 5 at the launch of the PlayStation 5. In theory, they say holiday 2020, so it might slip by a month, but it seems like a very strong game to launch with.
Yeah, I mean, and it's smart too, because like we really can't expect to have Spider-Man 2 on there day one. It's just not reasonable. But to have new Spider-Man something right out of the gate is smart and good, and I will play that game.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one to have. It's interesting, their wording, because they say in the video, captured on PlayStation 5, hey, the PlayStation 5 journey here, Miles Morales, PlayStation 5. They're not saying it's exclusive. I could still see this coming to PlayStation 4 as well. With that PlayStation 4 install base, if it's still the same underlying tech and city from the PlayStation 4 game, it seems like it'd be silly not to also release it on PS4.
Is the new back-of-the-box quote for PlayStation 5, because it was like for 360 and PS3, it was now in HD. For PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, it's 4K to a certain degree, but also frame rate was a big one.
Yeah.
For PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, is it going to be like this version has less loading? Is that going to be like the bullet point on the back?
Loadless Spider-Man, please run, don't walk.
Just says loadless, like that's the new HD, loadless.
I think it will be fun if they do end up releasing this on PS4. I mean, you could see it as undercutting their message. Jim Ryan's out there saying, clean divisions between generations, everybody. One stops, the other starts. That's the way this world turns. But if they do end up releasing this on PlayStation 4 as well, having that direct comparison of loading times between the games, I think would be really fascinating.
Yeah, totally.
But we should talk about who's working on this game. Obviously, it's Insomniac. It's interesting that the creative director for the last game, Brian Intihar over at Insomniac, he's not saying that he's the creative director on this one. He tweeted out like, hey, this project's awesome. Hats off to the team. Even John Paquette, who's the lead writer for the last one, he also has not said that he's working on it, just like, hey, check out this project. Everyone's being a little bit ambiguous. Everybody's very PR trained over there at Insomniac, especially now that they're part of the Sony family.
I wonder what those guys are working on. Do you wonder what they're working on, Hanson?
I mean, it must be the next big Spider-Man game, right?
Yeah, it's got to be the one with the 2 in the title.
Yeah, that's built from the ground up for the PlayStation 5 instead of what's maybe more in that cross-gen area. But as far as what we know for who is working on this, a former Kotaku writer named Evan Narcisse, he tweeted, deep breath, y'all, I'm so proud to say that I've began working with the extremely talented folks at Insomniac Games on this game. And then Ben Arfman, who's also a writer, he tweeted out, working on Spider-Man Miles Morales has been the absolute highlight of my professional career. Labor of love from everyone here at Insomniac that we cannot wait to share with you all. And he worked on the last game as well, Ben Arfman.
I mean, it sounds like they branched off a smaller team to put this together, which is good, which is smart. I mean, I think if with Lost Legacy as the comparison, that's what Naughty Dog did, and I think it worked out well, because then we got to play more Uncharted,
Yeah, and it let some of the other talent within Naughty Dog step up a little bit. With Lost Legacy, they had new directors on that project, a new lead writer with Josh Scher, giving him more experience moving from the animation background. And so with this one, I like that idea of Insomniac's going to be a very focused studio here. Obviously, they have Ratchet & Clank being developed over there in North Carolina. But just to let more creative hands take a stab at a big project like this and hopefully being a little more flexible and creative and different.
Yeah, my hope for the game is it does feel... I mean, it's not going to feel totally unique from, Insomniac's Marvel's Spider-Man, but I hope it does stand alone.
Yeah, and they'll have plenty of room to tease the ongoing story of where things are going for Peter Parker's story. And you never know, like, if they're building up Miles here and Peter's story is still going on, like, they could still be setting it up for the big PlayStation 5 Spider-Man 2 equivalent game to then be co-op between the two of them.
That'd be all right. I'd be cool with that.
I mean, if they're looking for a way to, like, differentiate them, want to make it stand out compared to this experience, that seems like an obvious move.
I mean, I know how much you love student-teacher fiction, Hanson. Like, Yoda trading Luke. Training Luke, rather. Is this like... Are you excited for the potential of, like, one Spider-Man teaching another Spider-Man as a video game?
I love that stuff. And they had a fair bit of that in the DLC, too, but, like, if they fully flesh that out, I think it could be really fun, like, figuring out which one of your friends is going to be the rookie and which is going to be the Spider-Man master here. But in terms of gameplay, the teases that we saw from the trailer, you got invisibility in that one shot. That's a lock. It looks like he's using his Venom Strike to paralyze folks at some point there as well.
It looks like maybe it opens with that, because it's like the close-up on his arm, and he's like doing some kind of attack,
I was trying to figure that out, because it's also frying him. I think that might be something different. Maybe that's like how he's getting that ability, or maybe that's some climactic moment in the game. I was confused about exactly what we're looking at there, because it doesn't look just like a standard attack.
We'll see, I guess, right?
Hey, we'll see. But a lot of questions left. Let us know in the comments if you recognize any details in the trailer that we missed, who he's fighting, the environments, anything like that. If you're from New York City, tell us about it.
And I mean, 100% there has to be an unlockable, like, cel-shaded Spider-Verse outfit in there, right? It better be in there. You know what? I'm not going to play it if it's not in there.
That's a good philosophy. All right, well, that's it for everything we know about Spider-Man Miles Morales. Obviously looking forward to playing it on the PlayStation 5. Oh, also, if you're watching this and you probably enjoy PlayStation games, you should check out The Deepest Dive on The Last of Us Part 2. It's going to be our giant community game club that's aiming to be the best, most thorough discussion about The Last of Us Part 2 on the internet. So if you're looking forward to Naughty Dog's new game, you can learn all about it in a separate video on our YouTube channel. We're breaking the game up into chunks and going through each in exhaustive detail, but it's going to be really fun and really interesting and really insightful. So if you're looking for the best conversation about The Last of Us Part 2 on the internet, check out The Deepest Dive on MinnMax's YouTube channel here. And as always, be greater. Kyle, join me. Be yourself.
Be yourself.
Bye, everybody! MinnMax is a Patreon about games, friends, and getting better. The Deepest Dive is the best, most thorough discussions about games on the internet. Prove us wrong, please. The MinnMax Show podcast airs every Thursday. Patreon supporters vote on what we stream every single week, and a whole lot more. Give us a shot, try subscribing to the YouTube channel, and we hope we can win you over.